Now this is one I have been waiting on for a while. The Rogal Dorn battle tank. How cool is that? Now, as far as I know, this is a new tank. This is not one, I don't think, that had been available in resin, and now it's plastic, although I may be wrong on that. But it's definitely the first time it's been available in plastic. And I think what I really like about this, I love Warhammer tanks in general, because they have this cool look to them that combines elements of like World War I tanks, you know, the shape of them and all of that with very modern kind of stuff. And then, of course, they're covered in huge guns. What's not to like about that? And I'll apologize for my voice. Today is February 4th. Yeah, I think it's February 4th. And I'm still fighting this cold. I feel much better, but my sinuses are still stopped up. I'm still coughing. It's crazy. But anyway, I love this because it's got the classic look of Warhammer tanks, that kind of throwback, you know, World War I, yet future sci-fi aesthetic to it. But it's also got some things in it that you don't find on the typical Warhammer tank. For example, the road wheels you can build them so they're visible. That's something I've not seen on a tank before, where they feature the road wheels. So that's kind of cool because that allows for some really great weathering. There's a lot more crew options in the box. You've got full crew, and I'll show you some of the positions and everything. It comes with a lot of stowage. As you can see in this photo here, there's a lot of stowage on the model, which, I mean, there's always been some stowage, but they've been very intentional, it looks like, about combining, you know, military armor modeling things with Warhammer stuff to give it a degree of, I guess you'd say realism. I mean, we know it's make-believe, but a degree of realism that I think is really cool. One of the things that appeals to me is you've got the choice of this double big gun. I mean, who doesn't love double big guns? Or you've got an even bigger gun and then a smaller gun. So there's some coolness there. Now notice they've got crew. You've got a commander figure. Then there's this, technically, I guess that would be the loader figure. And then there's this figure that actually stands on this platform behind the turret to fire the gun, which is kind of cool. Not entirely realistic, but still kind of cool. So that's neat. And then there's gun options for the guns that go up front, and then there's one here, and then there's a gun on these sponsons on the sides. So, I mean, this thing is just covered in guns, which is absolutely cool. Now, to just take a quick blast through the instructions, the assembly is fairly standard for GW stuff. They show you some options. They give you colors to say, okay, if you want to build this layout, look for this color. You want to build this one, so forth. Now, they also use colors about where to glue and, you know, here's the piece that you last worked on, and so it kind of gives you some clues of that. Now, they've got the fairly standard way of doing it that I've seen with their other tanks, that you build one side of the hull and the other side of the hull, and then put the tracks on, and then build up the parts in between. So that's fairly standard. Now, what I'm planning on doing is I want to do a video that will cover assembly and base painting of the tracks. I think that'll be a decent video to spotlight on that, because the way I've started doing it, it's worked out really well for me, is I build the tracks, and I think I may have demonstrated this on the Basilisk. I don't recall. I know I did it that way. I don't remember if I demonstrated it. But what I do is I kind of break the tracks down into sections, and then I lay out the tracks on my work desk. Say I'll pick this thing, and this thing, and I'll lay those out on the work desk, and then I'll just touch some glue along the joins, give it a couple of minutes to get set, and then I'll shape it around the tank and just hold it or tape it in place until it's firmly set, and then I can take it off the tank. So what you end up being able to do is assemble the tracks, paint them, do the basic weathering, all of that, do the vehicle, and then at the end, you bring them together for the final environmental weathering. I think it just makes it easier to do it. I've seen methods where people just put it on there and then they try and paint it, which sometimes can lead to some difficulties. I've seen where people just leave them on the sprue and paint them on the sprue and then just clip them off and try and put them on, but sometimes it leaves some mold separation lines and other issues. So I've found this way that I'm going to demonstrate, at least for me, it works really well, and I'll be able to squeeze a video out of it. So that's a good thing. Now, one quick note, and I'm surprised that the number of people I've heard complaining about this. When you're putting the hull together, there's two parts that go on the bottom. Well, it leaves a gap in the bottom. There's just a big hole. And some people have said like, oh, there's a hole in the bottom, just be aware of that. So you'll know that there's, a hole in the bottom. And others I've seen online, I read one article where the guy was really upset about that. What if you want it to look blown up on the battlefield and you turn it over on its side and they see the hole? I'm like, dude, just use some plastic card. Let it go, man. It's make believe. It'll be all right. I'm not too worried about it. I figure if I do want to cover it up, I'll just use some plastic card and cover it up. Maybe if I was really motivated, I'd build something inside so you can put like M&Ms in it to use in the game or something like that. Quick snack while you're working on it. Anyway, once you get the main hull together, there's a few other parts, some exhausts. I'll probably leave, what I may do, because you see there's exhaust parts and then there's the covers. I may put the exhausts on and paint them on the model, but leave these covers off. I don't know. I'll have to test fit it to see how accessible all of it is. It's odd that they've left out those parts. My guess, the reason they have the hole in the bottom of the tank, the reason they're leaving this stuff out like that, is to save plastic. From a manufacturing standpoint, if you're able to not use plastic in some areas, then you can dedicate that plastic to use in others. Because a tooling costs money, and the more you can squeeze out of the tooling to get usable parts, in my mind, the better it is. So if that's what it is, if doing the exhausts in this way, if leaving the hole in the bottom of the tank means we get more stowage, we get more options, fine. Give me the stowage, give me the options, give me all of that stuff. I don't mind a hole in the bottom of the tank. I can take care of that. Now the turret builds up in one piece. I've looked at the parts for building the different options for the crew. It doesn't look like that they're easy to say, okay, let me do this section and then hot swap it like this and hot swap it like that. It looks like there's only one set of parts and you just use different parts for different configurations. So I'm going to pick a configuration. I'm probably going to go with this one just because it allows for the most crew standing out, which I think will look kind of cool. What I did notice is that the two gun options, the parts are separate on those so that I don't see any reason why I won't be able to build a magnetized version so that I can pop off either one of the gun options and have them both on there. I think that will be really cool. I'll have to test it, of course, once I start actually playing with the plastic, but just looking at the instructions, I think that'll be doable. Now they've got various crew options. They've got the crewman that's standing in the back firing the machine gun. They've got what I'm going to call the loader, different head options. For the commander figure, they have one who's saying, hey, did you see that over there? Cool. And then this one here is saying, wow, I did see that. That does look pretty cool. So they're communicating. That may not be what they're saying, but anyway, it's fun to make believe. But I just think it's a pretty cool configuration to have those three crewmen like that. This guy, he better hope there's nobody shooting at that tank because he's wide out there. He's out there in the wide open, so that would not be the place that I would want to be. Now, some additional options that they give that I think are pretty cool. You've got these fenders that you can put along the top. You don't have to. That's optional. They've got these armor pieces that go along the side. If you want to cover up the road wheels, in a more traditional 40K style, you can do that if you want to leave them off, so that they're leaving the road wheels exposed. You can do that. So I like that. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I've considered everything. I know I'm going to leave these off. I want to have the road wheels exposed. I like that look. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the fenders. I've even thought about doing a Martin from Night Shift Scale Models and cutting the fenders into pieces and just using a few various bits and pieces here and there, like some of them broke off. The only thing I don't know is because of the way they're glued on, I don't know how well that will work in terms of positioning them on here. So I may have to test fit that, but you've got some options there. Now there's other stowage options. There's an extra road wheel. There's, if I remember right, there's some extra tracks. Yeah, there's an extra track piece that you can put on the turret. There are quite a few different stowage pieces, canisters, water cans and oil cans and things like that can go on there. So if you do make use of these fenders, there are plenty of places for this stowage, which I think just makes it look, more like a real world tank. Because I don't care what millennia you're in. If you're a soldier in the field, you've got to carry everything that you've got to use. You've got to carry it with you, whether it's tools for working on the tank, whether it's shovels for digging stuff out or digging fighting positions near it or digging a trench near it so you have a place to sleep at night that, may keep you out of the line of fire. You've got to carry all your food, your water, your sleeping pack, your sleeping roll, everything like that. So, and then you collect stuff as you go along that you may find useful. I remember riding around in a Humvee and having a chair strapped to it because we had found a folding chair. So we grabbed that because, you need some place to sit. So all of this stowage, I think, looks really cool. And you can paint that up any way you want. And my plan is, as I'm thinking of it right now this may change. I may not take the time to do it because it will be fairly time consuming. But if I go all the way with my thinking, I'm going to line the underside of these fenders with some kind of metal plate and magnetize all of the stowage so you can just put it on in any configuration you want. It'll depend on how much time I have and how excited I am about doing that. I may get to that point and go, I'm not that excited about doing that. If not, I'll just glue on the stowage and pick a configuration, and there it is. But this will be, in terms of layout, this will be what I'm going for generally right here, mainly with this thing up here being swappable. Now, I'm still not sure what I'm going to do for the color scheme. I'm kicking around a lot of ideas, and I haven't settled on one yet, but I have some time because I'm still, as of right now, I'm still working on the Sentinel. So I've got a while to work on it. But after the Sentinel is done, I'm moving right into this one. I thought I was going to do the Cadia artillery and a couple of Cadia soldiers. I'll get to them because I really want to do them because they're cool. But this tank, as soon as this tank came, Nicky, a friend and a patron, he was like, you're just itching to get started on that thing. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's hard to keep going with what I've got because this tank is just so cool looking, and I love building Warhammer tanks. Now, when I opened the box, I was surprised to find that there were only 3 sprues. I thought a tank of this size and this complexity was going to have a lot more parts than this. Now, for one, Citadel does squeeze out every bit of space on these that they can, and their numbering system is nuts. You've got 78, 48, 64, 54. It's just all over the place, but you figure it out. But the casting is as good as anything you've ever seen from Citadel. It's really, really nice. I mean, look at like that tow cable there. You can see the nice casting on that, on the stowage there, the parts of the barrel, just really, really nice stuff. Here's the, whoops, wrong side. Am I looking at no, that's the back side. Okay. we'll get to the road wheels in just a minute. But that's some of the parts there. Just really nice looking stuff. Here's the back deck. Got a couple of fuel caps, so there's going to be some opportunities for some nice stains there. A hatch, more places for stains. I just love that they build in all of these opportunities for weathering and things like that. But again, just beautifully, beautifully cast parts. My biggest complaint is that I hope that they will solve the dilemma of coming up with single-piece barrels. I know it can be done because there's other manufacturers do it, but it's much more expensive, so, maybe that's why. But there's the figures that will go on it, some of them, but just really, really good-looking stuff. Now here you can see the road wheels, and you can see the detail. Now they're cast in, but still, I'm really glad that they've got those in there. That's going to be fun to weather. And they continue on as they had done on some previous armored builds that I had done, with much better looking tracks. These are the ones that have the rubber cleats on them. Kind of like, I think it was the Sherman had those in World War II, and other tanks that had that. So just really, really nice casting there. And I like the tracks that they have now. They're much beefier and just a little more realistic looking. Give a better chance for weathering and for just having some fun with that. Now, one of the things that I'm especially impressed with is the decal sheet for this. Citadel decals, they've always been good. I've never had a problem with them. But in the past, sometimes I would be disappointed because I would get the decals and you open it up and you look back at the box and you're like, wait a minute, the stuff that's on the box is not what's in the decal sheet. Or there would only be a very limited number of options for what was in the box. You'd get something that was Imperial Guard and you would only get the ability to do Katie and stuff, or you would get Space Marines and there was only Ultramarines. So, now if you are building for Imperial Guard or Ultramarines, it's great, but even then sometimes the decal sheets would be limited. For this sheet, I noticed for the Leagues of Votann, for some of the others, they're putting much more into the decal sheets, much more value. Now, if you're not familiar with, if you're familiar with the various factions within the Imperial Guard, the various regiments, you're already seeing all of the things here. But there is markings for Valhalla and for Catachan. Which one is it? I don't know. Voistroya, Death Corps of Krieg, Talon Desert Raiders. There's, let's see, Tanith, and then of course the Imperial Guard. So you've got a lot of options right out of the box here for how you want the vehicle to look. Now, for some of them, and if you're into 40K, you know what I'm talking about. Like if you want to do the Voistroyan Firstborn, for the crew, you're going to have to do some things to kind of kit bash the crew to make them look that way. Although I don't know if the armored crew wear those bearskin hats. Anyway, there's, it's not, they haven't followed through 100% with it. But just to have these markings, I think is really adding value to the kit. So I'm really impressed with the depth of markings that come with it. Now, talking about value, on the GW website, this is $90 for this tank. If you look at any retailer, they're going to be selling it for generally $76.50, $75, $76, $77, somewhere around in there. As I understand it, GW charges a price, and then their authorized resellers, they can sell it at a lower price. There's a certain percentage that they're allowed to sell it at. So if you're getting it directly from GW, you're probably paying too much. I use, what is the name of the site that I use? Hang on. Had to look over on my computer. Flipside Gaming on eBay. That's here in the U.S. Now, if you're, in the U.K., somewhere else, there's probably something near you that has really good service. I've been really happy with Flipside Gaming. You can pre-order it, and they actually drop it in the mail before it's released. They time it so that it generally gets to me on Saturday, the day that it's first released. So as soon as Citadel, as Games Workshop says, yeah, you can start selling this, it's going to arrive by mail that day. So they're really good about getting that to you quickly. If not on that Saturday, I usually get it on Monday. So, I mean, not like, you've got to have it that quick, but it's just kind of cool because, I'm like a little kid. I want to play with my new toy. So, and again, the value is subjective. I mean, if you're buying really nice armor kits in 35th scale and you're getting some extra equipment to put on them and stuff like that, you can spend $76 really fast. At the same time, you can go to Hobby Lobby and find an older Tamiya kit, which is really nice, really buildable. I've bought them for as little as $15, so it's all over the board. But I think for what this is a really good value of a model. So anyway, this Rogal Dorn is going to be coming up after the Sentinel, and I'll be doing a few videos talking about some of the assembly. I still haven't decided how extensive the video about painting and weathering the tank is going to be. I'm going to try and get into one episode. I may or may not include the figures. If I don't include the figures, I'll probably do it for you guys. I haven't decided. And who knows, by then I may decide I'm going to do it instead of an episode on the tracks and then one episode for the rest of it. It may end up being 3 episodes. You know how I am. It's really going to come down to how much time I have and what the next thing is that GW releases that I get all excited about. So that's really going to determine how quickly I get through this. But they teased this one months ago, and I have been waiting on this, and it did not disappoint. So I am really excited about building it. Well, as always, thank you so much for being a patron. Thank you supporting me and the work I do, and by doing that, you're supporting my family. We are grateful for that. So I appreciate every one of you, especially those of you who are now seeing this and you've stuck with me through this transition to the new tiers, and you're still with me. I am so grateful for that. So thank you very much. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.